Hello friend, my name is Doombabe and today we're going to be talking about Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori and the Blind Forest is an indie puzzle platformer that was developed by Moon Studios and released for the Xbox One and PC on March 11th. It follows the story of Ori, a spirit that detached from the spirit tree during a great storm and fell into the forest of Nibel, where she was soon adopted by a bear-like creature named Naru that raised and protected her. They quickly became two peas in a pod, but when a cataclysm hit the forest, it started to wither and die. As the forest decayed, food became scarce, and even Naru eventually died, leaving Ori all on her own. Ori then leaves their home and sets out to restore the forest with the help of Sign, a Navi-like creature that guides Ori and attacks on her behalf. Up until now, there's only ever one game that ever actually made me cry just during the introduction scene. One. And that game was Heavy Rain, and you guys all know what scene I'm talking about. So I was pretty surprised when just a few minutes in, I found myself sobbing a little when Ori runs in with the scarce food that she found, only to find that her best friend slash mother figure had died. Ori and the Blind Forest is a beautiful coming-of-age story that tells a tale of life and death, redemption, and finding one's strength to uncover your own destiny. Throughout the game, you watch Ori grow from a seemingly helpless little animal to the strong guardian spirit she was meant to be. Her emotions are conveyed perfectly on the screen, and I actually felt an emotional connection to this character. I wanted her to succeed. I wanted her to win and to restore the forest to its former glory. It really does remind you of Studio Ghibli's storytelling style, which the writers did say was a very heavy influence on their work. Unlike a lot of puzzle platformers, this has a very open world feel to it, meaning that you can just go back to a hidden area or pick up an item you may have missed earlier. You can explore the areas whenever you want, as long as you're willing to go back and redo these puzzles backwards and forwards, which really isn't that much to ask of you, considering that the game itself isn't very difficult. I'm not saying that the game isn't challenging or that it's a cakewalk, but I'm saying it's only challenging enough to where you're not screaming at the TV, but you're not bored. And if you do pass one of those difficult puzzles, you can always just drop a soul link. And a soul link is the game's version of a quick save feature, because unlike most modern games, this game doesn't have any checkpoints or autosaves. Soul linking runs off of the energy that you find along your journey, which the game gives you plenty of, but there isn't an abundance of energy, so you do need to manage your resources wisely, and you can't just drop a soul link willy-nilly. Speaking of resources, there is also a leveling system. There are 3 branches that you can level up following the normal system. You have your combat tree, you have the health-oriented tree, and then you have the tree that gives you extra abilities, which in the end makes puzzles easier. Thankfully though, you aren't actually bound to one tree. You can bounce back and forth however as you please, so you can level up Ori the way that you want to. To gain new powers and abilities, you need to collect Spirit Light, and Spirit Light is the energy that energies drop once you have defeated them, and once that your Spirit Light meter is full, you gain an ability point, and then the ability point you can spend on new abilities. It's essentially like leveling up without blatantly being, you leveled up! As for the combat, it's not like a lot of other games. You see, Ori and the Blind Forest focuses more on the puzzle aspect and the story than actual combat. So because of this, there are really only a handful of different enemies that have different attack patterns, and you're not fighting wave after wave. This was something that I really liked because I'm not really a whole fan of the fighting through scores of enemies to get to your objective. I'd really rather just enjoy the story and do a couple puzzles than just keep fighting dudes. As for the soundtrack, don't even get me started! I am a sucker for good music, and this game had a beautiful, sad, hauntingly great soundtrack. I was absolutely in love with it, and I immediately went out and I spent $10 on Amazon for the full soundtrack because it's just that good. I only had 2 grievances with the game. The first one being there is no second playthrough option, meaning once the game is over, the game is over. And if you're an achievement hunter, you can understand why it's annoying, because you have to go and you have to start a new save file and you have to start all over again. My second issue was the narration, because I didn't feel like it was necessary in the slightest. The storytelling was conveyed perfectly on the screen, where you know exactly what's going on just by watching Ori and watching what's going on. So with the narration, it really just felt like needless hand-holding, as if the developers were saying, you know what, maybe you're not smart enough to catch on, so we're gonna blatantly tell you what's going on. And all in all, really, the narration it felt distracting, if anything. I don't even know how to start explaining just how beautiful I found this game to be, because it is just amazing. As I said earlier, the story is perfectly conveyed on screen because of how skillfully put together each and every scene is. But with that aside, I really want to talk about Nibel, the world design, because Nibel is a world that is composed of an extraordinary use of colors and detail that is nothing short of visually stunning, even just at the opening menu. Each area looks like it's a painting from a fairy tale that had come to life, and I especially enjoyed the use of the different color palettes to differentiate between the healthy parts of the forest and the blind or the corrupted. You can see life and the thriving nature through the greens and the blues that are used, and then you can see which parts of the forest are withering and dying because they're being portrayed in a brown and red fashion. This game was so close to a perfect score. It was so expertly made that I have to engage my white girl mode and I can't even. I had so much fun playing Ori in the Blind Forest that I actually do feel kind of bad that I couldn't find more words to convey just how amazing I find this game to be. I actually had trouble writing the review just because I was completely stumped on how to make the review worthy of this game. It's beautiful, the story tugs on your heartstrings with a silent protagonist, the OST is out of this world, the gameplay is engaging, and I highly recommend y'all to play this from the bottom of my heart. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Ori and the Blind Forest. Have you played it? Are you gonna play it? Do you even like puzzle platformers? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, happy unbirthday, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Meaning once your turn is done, the person to your left is the person who goes next. If a player were to leave for whatever reason, such as they lost or they needed to leave, then the person to their left takes control of their plane just before they exit the game. And then once that